Hi Coven, welcome to our first YouTube. This is exciting and a little unexpected. I don't always get on here to talk quite that much, but I think we're kind of at the dawn of a new time. So as you know, we've moved our long form content and our educational content to YouTube because of what's happened with TikTok and possibly a monopolization with Meta. So you will see more of us on here. And right now it's just me. But we are starting off this one, our very first one, actually with a request that we received from TikTok for some sort of ritual or practice to help cleanse ourselves and possibly our phones in light of the chaos that was this past weekend, this week with world events. So let's talk about it. The practice I'm going to talk us through is based on one that was actually taught to me by Jade Lauren, who's based in Columbus, Ohio, where I am. She is a Reiki practitioner as well as a hair artist. She does a wonderful job. She's got amazing grounded energy, and I really love being able to share this with you guys because Jade herself does a lot of work really rooted in community and learning from each other. And I think that's what we all need right now, is not to be so individualized, so, isolated in our practice, but also to understand that connections and coping and all of those things are not going to come from us hiding. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be all of us collectively being a part of the same energy. And so we just have to figure out how are we going to manage that energy. So the practice we're going to talk about, you can do anywhere. That's how Jade taught it to me. One thing I'll put out there is for myself, because I'm in my space where I like to do these things. If you are at home and you don't need tools, by the way, to do this, the biggest tool you need is the one that you always have, and that is your mind. But if you're someone like me who enjoys employing like hearth witchery practices, or you enjoy the ritual of things, you can utilize incense for smoke. You can also light candles. I myself really enjoy the practice of candles. I find fire to be very cleansing and grounding. Now, with that being said, I am a Leo sun and an Aries moon, so maybe not everyone feels that way about fire, but I make candles, I burn candles. Candles are a part of my daily practice. So for me, I burn scents that are very grounding and help emulate the energy that I want to be feeling and I want to find in myself. Primarily in this space, I utilize my onyx, my white onyx crystal jar, because white onyx helps us with cleansing and purifying and clearing out some of that heaviness. You can really use whatever you want to, but that's just what I do. Anyways, let's jump into it. You can do this anywhere. Like I said, this is a practice that is meant to be used for a variety of situations, and I will link to Jade also so you can follow her for some more of her advice. First thing we're gonna do, I love bringing sensations into things because I think it helps us really feel. So either grab like a cup of tea, coffee, whatever, something warm, feel it in your hands. I'm gonna have us go ahead and you're gonna close your eyes for me. You close them, mine will be open. Close your eyes for me, and I need you to just visualize that we are first going to ground ourselves within our own minds. So imagine you have a string that is pulling you, whether that's from your back, your tuchus, or even from the top of your head, but is pulling down into the earth, like pulling you down all the way through the layers to the core of the earth. And take your time getting there. Really let yourself sink down into it. And you are just going to feel held by the earth. You are held within the earth. You are encompassed in its stability, in its strength. Really be one with Mother Earth. Let yourself melt down in. You are at the core, and you are being held by this very strong base of energy. You are not floating around, you are just there. Let yourself ground. Feel this as long as you need to feel it. Really sit in it. And when you are ready, start imagining, as you are grounded, as you're being held in the earth, that all of the energy you've picked up recently, your energy ties with other people, from social media, from the world that you've picked up, are falling away. You can imagine it as smoke, physically clearing it off of your body. You can imagine it as a laser or as water, or you can just imagine in your own mind that it's just being pulled off of you. You don't need it anymore. It's heavy, you can let it drop. And again, sit with that as long as you need to. It's okay if it takes you a minute, because things are heavy right now, but also there's a lot to unpack. It's anything from your interactions with other people to, again, the media that you're consuming, to your own fears and the unknown. Just let it fade. Let it fall. It's not yours to carry all the way. Once you're ready, once you feel like you've really stripped that all away, now let's imagine ourselves putting up our protections. And this is part of cleansing. And again, I will shout out Jade for this, because she has put things into words for me so many times that I was not sure how to put into words. And cleansing is not just enough, it's how you equip yourself to move on from the cleansing, whether it's a space or yourself. You want to put up protection and set the energy to what you want it to be. So you're in this really calm, cleansed state. Now you want to imagine that you're putting down a layer of protection. For some people, it's the idea of like an automatic door coming down. For me, I kind of like to imagine it's like Wanda's red force field in WandaVision, or in Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, when they put up like the force field over the school to protect the town. And it's just light. It's a light field, but only certain people can get through if you choose. But ultimately, it's to help you filter. So things can come to you, but they can't come through you. We can't, and we don't have the capacity to absorb everything. And that is why everything feels so heavy right now, though, is you can't possibly consume everything at once and process it and live your life. So put down that protection shield. Let's just start with one. Now, again, an idea that Jade put out to me that I think is really interesting and I'd like to share with you is, if you don't want to do like a visualization of a light force field or a door, you could do it where the protection shield you're putting down is mirrored. So imagine it's mirrored, it's coming down, and this is great, especially if you're going to be around people or consuming media that you know really tends to affect you. And you know it may or may not be positive, and you know it could seriously be disruptive. To put it mildly, think of it as a mirrored protective shield. So whatever's coming at you is going back. And again, this is really great if you know someone particularly unfortunately has negative energy, or they tend to project things in the current world where there's a lot of propaganda that we're dealing with right now and other things. It's great for that too, to know what they're saying is not exactly the truth, so you don't have to absorb it. You don't need to make it a part of your mind. You don't need to let it infiltrate your soul. It doesn't need to do that. And when you're ready, just sit with your protection shield, take a deep breath, and move on with your day. And it's that simple. You know, it's not a fix-all, but I think you can really do that as many times a day as you need to. And again, if you're somebody who really likes the ritual of things, you can make that into as much or as little of a ritual as you want to. But why I've personally liked it and wanted to share it with you all is because we're not always in our sacred or safe spaces. And Jade helped equip me with that, knowing that like it's something you can do in your car, you can do it in the middle of a busy room, you can do it at work. It's something where it's all in your mind. And that's also one thing people can't take away, is our own knowledge, our own understanding. And also there is something to be said for retaining your mental and emotional strength, and a lot of that unfortunately resides in emotional regulation. So how you're managing the information, how you're managing fear or confusion, and also how we're communicating with each other. Because now is not the time, again, for us all to hide. Now is the time for us to work together and share those fears or share those feelings with each other. One thing I wanted to put out there too, if you're someone who is trying to make sense of things, or specifically a woman who is looking for guidance and community on how to transmute your anger and frustration and everything else, there's a couple books I would recommend. First one is Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is a really great, really dense book, centered a lot on not only like ancient communities and civilizations, but also on mythology and variations of religion, but ultimately how women's freedom and women's rights have always been ingrained in our society. It is actually a more modern idea that they shouldn't be. But ultimately it also is a guidebook, in my opinion, of how to get in touch with that inner wilderness. I'm a firm believer that the real feminine energy is actually chaos and freedom, not necessarily modern day submission. It depends on the way you use things, but I think women being controlled is not the best signifier of a thriving feminine. We'll say that. So this is a really great resource. Check it out. It's, like I said, very literary and academic, so there's a lot to delve into here. I think another really great one is Rage Becomes Her, and it talks about the power of women's anger, obviously, but I think through some of my readings and also conversations with other women in the last year, it's come to my attention the way that we need to be using our anger, not repressing it, letting it out, and then also being able to still be fluid and moving through the world and creating things and interacting with each other while angry. And this book is just really good for that, for talking how women can utilize their anger and also how women's anger has moved our society in the past. But ultimately, I think the practice that we just talked about in these books all ultimately wrap up together in the idea that we need to be talking, We can't hide from the reality of what's happening, but also the best thing you can do for yourself is take these little moments, understand your feelings, feel your feelings, and then go forward. Like, we can't, unfortunately, to use that one quote, we can't sit and stare at our wounds forever. And now is opportunity for us to work together to enforce some sort of change. I personally, this is not a perfect video, obviously. I personally am delving through what my thoughts are as a business owner, as a woman of a certain age in the US, and also as someone who is married to a man and as a white woman. And I think we can all be doing a better job to support each other, but I also want to put out a call to action for all of us as well, to specifically be looking to support Black women and the LGBTQ community, specifically trans people within the community, because there is a lot that is scary right now and a lot of danger. And even if it seems like the day-to-day is the same, it's really not. And that's also how, unfortunately, these regimes are able to thrive, is from the average person feeling like, well, life is okay, it's business as normal. But it's really not. And we really shouldn't have a situation where anybody feels like all of these things and the rollback of human rights is normal. So I don't know, guys. That's the thoughts I have today. I am not engaging personally with anything around the inauguration today, but as I shared, please utilize this practice. Please let me know if you have any thoughts, or you yourself like to do something like this and you have a slightly different way of doing it. I would love to hear. And feel free to tell me if there's other things you want to know. If you would like me to dive in more on books, or if there's other practices you're interested in. I am learning every day, I think, like everyone else here, so I will never claim to know everything, because I don't think that's a thing. But I would love to hear from all of you on what your thoughts are. And again, if you're interested in certain content from us, let me know. All right, Coven. It was so good having this virtual talk with you. Let me know your thoughts. Be well.